And here we go. Welcome back. It's another edition of the 50/50 podcast. Welcome to all our listeners. Tonight, we're starting a little bit different. We wanted to go ahead and recognize, take a moment to mourn the recent loss of a great goalkeeper in the college soccer world, highly respected and tremendous young lady, leader, student athlete, who we recently got the news of her passing. That's been going through, being shared across the soccer world, not just the college soccer world. But we stand with the Stanford community, Stanford athletics, the Stanford women's soccer program, with us recently finding out of the passing of Katie Meyer. So we want to just take a quick second and ask for a moment of silence. From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game.
College Promoters USA, founded and located in San Antonio, operates as the only family-owned college recruiting company in Texas that brings a truly professional, local, and face-to-face approach to area high school student athletes and their families. If your son or daughter is serious about college athletics, call them at 210-494-6363 or visit collegepromotersusa.com anytime. College Promoters USA, the best investment a parent can make in their high school student athletes.
And here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 podcast, powered by College Promoters USA, our proud partners. College Promoters USA, they are America's premier college prep program and high school student athlete marketing service since 1997. Located locally here in San Antonio, Texas. You can find them in the Ventura Plaza Shopping Center. You can also find them on social at Twitter at SATX Recruiting, as well as on Instagram at College Promoters USA. And you can also get more information on them at their website, collegepromotersusa.com. My next guest, he is a good friend of mine, someone who I befriended back in my El Paso days. We've been staunch supporters of one another, and very delighted, happy to have him here today, finally, and on a very, very special day. Well, obviously, yesterday was more special, but he is Coach Rudy Roediger, the head men's and women's soccer coach of Talladega College. Coach, how are you?
Great, thank you very much. I got to say, Labas vakaras, Litva, and Dobro večer, Ukrainsky.
There you go. There you go. And he'll get to that a little bit more in a second. Glad to have you here, Coach. Glad to have you here. This one's kind of been a long time in the making, and so happy to see you get your program. I know you've been working on this for a while. There are very few individuals out there that I think that have the drive, the ambition, and the work ethic that you do. So I'm very happy for you. Glad to have you here. And you are here on all of day 2, right?
That's right.
Day
That's
2,
right.
Day 2 on the job. And obviously also coming off of a birthday yesterday as well. So happy. I know I told you yesterday, but happy birthday once again. What a better birthday gift, right, than a brand new job.
It's like a rebirth all over again. It's a new place, a new team, and new program, and a new year. I mean, everybody else starts out on the 1st of January, but mine always starts on the 1st of March.
There you go. Awesome. So, Coach, before we dive in, start looking at I start peppering you with questions and whatnot. Just give us briefly a little synopsis of your background as far as a couple of places maybe you've been. Obviously, they're all kind of important to you, but maybe a couple of places that are near and dear to your heart, and tell us where you've been and how you got here.
Well, I'd say the thing that's interesting is I took a very non-traditional path as a student athlete. And traditional as far as going to college right away out of high school, but I was recruited. and that's a word I actually personally despise because to me it has like a lot of connotations of deception, persuasion, and coercion. And I was two different programs that I was at that I was told stories, and when I got there, it wasn't true. I had a really good foundation with Earl Welsh, who was my club coach as a youth, and then you know coaches in high school that really were about the person. And when I got to the college game, it was like, forget about the person. And I tell kids all the time, life happens for us, not to us. But when the second school things really fell apart, I got into coaching because I wanted to help other people really early on. So I jumped in and started a club from scratch, didn't know what I was doing, really young. And then I became a high school athletic director at Piketon High School when I was about 22 years old. No business doing that at such a young age, but I was also the soccer coach, and that taught me a lot about working with people that were in very different places in their careers because I was young and like the basketball coach was a veteran coach and played in the like been on NBA rosters. Worked with the football coach and sharing players between because in Ohio football and soccer play coinciding in the fall. Um, and then I got my first opportunity at Bethany College, which is the smallest division or smallest NCAA school to ever win a team national championship, and worked with Cosmos Morantitas there as a volunteer way back. Got my foot in the door. And then I happened to get the chance to go back to school when I was 30 years old at Notre Dame College with Mac McBride, working in the sports info side, not coaching. I saw what he did and how he cared for people. And I was like, that's who I want to be. And
Right.
so then along the way, doing all these different things and got my chance to be a head coach at a junior college 7 years ago and had to learn how to work within really restrictive situations and in an environment where typically junior college is inexpensive or free. And I had kids that were paying $20,000 after aid
Wow.
and working against teams that were, 18 full rides, and I didn't have a single full scholarship to give out. Man, to look at like in the place there, I used to ask kids how important Walmart was to them, and that really shaped me because Walmart was 45 minutes away on a country road to another state, happened to be Alabama, and it was another time zone, and the Walmart was so rural it closed at midnight. Heads would explode when I ask kids these questions because even internationals, domestic kids, they think it's on every corner of El Paso and whatever tiny town has a Walmart and Express, whatever. Not my town. The enrollment actually Talladega is larger than the population of Cuthbert, Georgia. And so it was just like to find the right fits, and that really shaped me. And then had the chance to work Division 1 at Oakland University, learn some things um, there, and coaching the NAIA at a bunch of different places. But without the bachelor's degree, I was very limited in clawing against the odds. So I mean, I could talk about every school and all those things. But most recently, I was at Blinn College, back with Mac McBride as an assistant in JCA Division 1 there in Texas, and just really kind of getting my foot back on the things. And then as life happens, it was never planned that I would leave so early because I finally got a coach with the guy that I respected. And actually, his first win as a college coach, I was on the losing end over 21 years ago.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome.
And I,
Well,
I get,
hey,
I,
and now you're here.
yeah, and I guess I did slip up there. And in between a lot of those college stops, I spent time in Eastern Europe and coached in the Entreliga for FK Brungus and the Entreliga of Lithuania, and then
Mhm.
spent 3 months in Ukraine where I lived and was visiting places and talking to clubs. Um, so it's like the world's a different place right now, Hector, than like
Mhm.
I know you've served in the military and other people have, and I like directly right now I've got friends who I stayed with for 3 months that were managers of where I lived, and they literally enrolled immediately when things went to protect their freedom. So that's one
Mhm.
of the things that is pretty near and dear to the world right now and what's going on. But we've
Right.
gone through COVID and we're going through all kinds of things, and it's
Right.
not the like never is a fun time, but I think every time is a learning opportunity for people.
Yeah. Yeah, and we opened up on a very sad, tragic, somber note with Katie Meyer, but also can't go without being said as far as the tough time right now in terms of the world and obviously us and wanting to take note of the world standing with the people of Ukraine. And also, obviously you befriended a lot of people there in that time. They're in Lithuania. Um, from your perspective, how, just briefly, not getting political here, obviously, but just more of from your perspective and what you see. What are your thoughts on that?
War is always a really tricky time, and I think when people don't know the background and the history, and they look from the outside, it's hard to understand. But being
Mhm.
there is like, and hopefully we're not going to get shut down here. It's kind of my my thing now with cyber, and never really was concerned about that before. But that's a real thing that's been happening for years. The trying to manipulate the narrative, the story of what's real and what's not. And there's been a story that's been told by one country to try and validate their reason for going in and destroying apartment complexes and just opening fire on residential property.
Mhm.
And so it's a really tough thing to think about. It's like there's been wars over you know resources forever, and that's what it's about. In the end of it, it's about resources, to try and have a stranglehold on the rest of the world, because Russia has something in an excess of energy side of things that people don't really realize. They think it's this cold, desolate place,
Mhm.
um, but it's the narrative and the story that's being told by one side is very different from the other. And like being in these times when you gotta like you can stand with somebody, but you can understand kind of the background of it. And there's a long history before you and I were around
Right.
of the USSR and the history. I mean, Lithuania was the first country to separate from the USSR in, I believe, 1991. And they're this tiny little country that's 3 hours, east to west, and about an hour and a half north to south. And they're, it's an amazing thing. I got to say this because, like, in this ginormous country of ours, people in New Orleans speak very differently from people in New York. They speak the same language, but it's very different. And there is a massive amount of distance between there. And I was in Plunge and I wanted to learn Lithuanian. And the player said, "You don't want to learn it from us." I said, "What do you mean?" "Yes, I do." And they said, "The people in the capital in Vilnius, which is like 3 hours away, can't understand us because they had such a different dialect."
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was a fascinating thing. It was like I was in New Orleans, New Orleans of Lithuania.
Yeah. Well, I actually, having spent almost 3 years in Europe, yeah, I definitely understand that for sure. So, well, I hope friends, people there are in that region. I hope they remain safe, obviously, and like I said, I know the world stands with them. So, wishing them the absolute best, and hope they stay safe. But as we transition here, Coach, so Talladega College, tell us why Talladega, why now?
Well, the players asked me that when I visited. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. The school brought me in to visit to show me the school, make sure I like that we were the fit for each other. And one of the girls actually asked me that, and I said, "Don't take this wrong and offensive," because I said, the history of Talladega has been on the men's side very up and down. Great season, terrible season, bad season, average season. The women's team just hasn't really ever hit a stride of any sort. And I said, no offense to the players here. I've gone in, and I think it's been 6 or 7 programs that I've seen a dramatic impact in some fashion while I've been there, whether it's been my doing or not. But there's always been reasons. There's always been things. And I said, well, the first thing, the mission statement and the vision of the school and the history really drew me. The cost effectiveness for a private school that's, U.S. News and World Report and Princeton Reviewed. It's like I've worked at a lot of schools that are super expensive and out of reach of a lot of kids. And Talladega opens a lot of doors that way. And then
Mhm.
I said, don't take offense to this, but men's and women's both have a chance to be the most improved team in the country next year. And I said it's kind of a weird, sick bucket list that I've had the second, the third most improved teams in the country. I want that number one. And so like I'm gonna work my socks off and be there to do all the things that need to be to change the schedule and bring in the players and all those things. So there was a lot of things, but in the end of the day, when I actually came, like I really wanted the job. like I was very intrigued, and my old boss would always would always chuckle when I would say that. I was very intrigued, but I was like ready to accept the job without coming. And then I've been floored when I was there that day from about 10:30 in the morning till 4 o'clock. The people here, like it's one thing to have a great school and a great degree. It's another thing when you have kids, it doesn't matter if they're coming from a few hours away or 24 hours away from home. Having a support network beyond the soccer program is
Right.
amazing. Like I used to just talk about, and I've said this to kids, I used to just talk about the soccer program, and what we were going to do for them. And now I'm saying, the director of admissions, Lon, he's going around when he's showing me and he's just saying, "Hey, Hector, how's your grandma? She out of the hospital now? And how's that math class?" And then he'd be like, "Oh, that's Hector from Los Angeles. He's one of my kids. Go someplace else, somebody else, different story, different questions. Oh, they're from Ohio." Stopped a kid when we were in the academic support building and was like really getting on him. And
Right.
I looked at him, I said, "What in the world?" And he goes, "I stay connected to every kid I bring in." And I was like, wow, that's special. The director of admissions, there's almost 2,000 kids that come to Talladega. He probably touches a quarter of them at least directly. So you're talking about hundreds of kids that he's
Yeah.
invested in. And then it's like below my office here is the education department. I just went and introduced myself yesterday. And they're like, "If you need anything, we always have food here. You bring your kids down. You need this, you need that." I'm like, they didn't even know me. And they're immediately just ready to, invest in people and get to know, and what do I need from them? And I'm like, I came to get to know you so that it's not about me needing anything. I wanted to meet you because I'm the new guy on the block. So that's been the thing that
Yeah.
really tied me, because I've been looking for a destination job.
Hmm.
There's been people who have been bashing me for years about, "Oh, Rudy's on the move again. Where's he going?" And it's like, I've been volunteering and things along the way and getting experience. And I was looking for that place that I could buy a house and set down roots and build a program for years, with an administration that's investing here at Talladega millions of dollars in facilities in the last few years. Like they're serious about the students. And, you know, I'm in a building that's a very historic building. And across the way is, I mean, there's 5 nationally registered historic buildings because the campus is 100, or the school is 155 years old. Um, so it's been around a long time, but opened up a brand new soccer field, student activity center, that are just, they're mind boggling. I've seen, like we're in the NAIA, and I've had people who played mid-major Division 1, and they're like, "What division is that in?" And that's like, yep, that's right. We're
Yeah.
hosting the opening round of the NAI men's basketball tournament next weekend. So we're one of the host sites, and like that's a sign of great administration, great facilities.
Right.
And then the basketball team's been as high as number 2 in the country. So, and we'll
Nice.
find out on Thursday if the women make it as well.
Okay. Good. Good. So day 2 on the job today. Take us briefly, what have the last maybe 36 hours been like?
Um, well, the 36 hours have been basically getting to know people here, connecting with people directly face to face, or mask to mask, to get to know them. And you know how can I help them? How the systems here work? That's been one of the biggest things. And then trying to get my office set up, because you got to have a workspace to be able to be effective. Um, and it's kind of like the players keep asking me when we're going to train. They think that that's all we do, and it's like I tell them,
Yeah.
like 98% of my job is not coaching, and it is important,
Right.
but that's not the thing at the moment. Like, I mean, yesterday I think I had three schools that were flummoxed because I called and said, "Sorry, we're not playing you next year. You're not in the NAI." And I've been doing those kind of things. Recruiting has been ongoing for about 3 weeks, because I knew this was going to happen. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. So I rolled in Tuesday with about 40 kids who had already applied to Talladega. So
There you go.
that
Nice.
was that was because that was one of the big things that was an issue, is the rosters were not in a collegiate size. And I'm not talking we need 50 kids like some schools have, but they only had 15 on each team.
Right.
And you can't go to Southern States Conference and play competitively that way, even if the 15 players are phenomenal. So it's one of the things I talked to the players when I first came here. I said the roster is going to change. It's going to get bigger. It's going to get deeper. I said, I don't know how good you are, but the quality is going to get higher. And so
Right.
that was one of the things. But the last 36 hours, it's been talking to the players. I mean, just it's important to get to know who's here,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
even if they're seniors, because some of those players have been really through some challenging times. And we've got a semester left for them to kind of change their. I mean, they love the school, but their soccer experience necessarily hasn't been what I would like it to be for them. So it's been about people in the first 36 hours. You know, so that's been the
Awesome.
biggest thing.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, coach. So after you're there, you're talking to a recruit, right? Or you're talking to the parents of a PSA, of a potential student athlete. And after they're done butchering your name, right? So maybe you can set the record straight for maybe all our student athletes that are listening right now. But after that, maybe they ask you, maybe it comes from a parent, right? It's like, hey, you're in one of these very unique situations at a 4-year institution, a 4-year program, where you are the head coach for both the men's and women's programs, right? So I'm a recruit, and I want the love. I want to be selfish. I want it to be about me. It's like, hey, coach, how am I going to be able to maybe survive, be noticed, get recognized, be able to vie for more playing time, and get the things that I need that's the right fit for me, if you're kind of being torn in two different directions, right, for both programs? What do you say to that?
Well, I'll kind of like one of the beautiful things is when I was up in Michigan working at Oakland University as a volunteer, I actually did about 200 training sessions and 100 games between under 10s and NCAA Division One between January and June, the middle of June. And like I had parents flummox because, and I am terrible with names. I am absolutely horrendous. I'm a visual person, but quickly I learned all the players on my U15 team, my U14 team, my U10 team, my UWS women's team, and obviously at Oakland. And so it's like, to me, I think it's a strength to have the two teams because they play the same sport. They have common interests. They have common classes. We're going to travel together. And, one of the past things that I think was a mistake is the men's team went someplace and left the girls. And then the girls did the game and it was just like herky jerky. But, when you come to like outside the student experience, which is really important, the student athlete experience outside of the sport itself and playing, winning, and losing, study hall. I've never understood why you can't have both teams operating because you and I are on the same team. We got the same class, maybe, but so does Sally over here. And if we're all in the same class and we're doing study hall, instead of us having to figure out, oh, when Sally got free time, we can just do it at study hall because it's not exclusive men's or women's. And we do community service and we're there. We provide a bigger collection of people when we go, work the NASCAR race up the road and we don't go fundraise. It's a lot easier to take both teams. And all of a sudden, you look at the amount of players from different backgrounds and different places, and all of a sudden you've got to build in all these new friendships and future, opportunities that if you're in business and I'm in accounting, it doesn't matter if we're men's or women's team and we graduate, boom, somebody gets a good job and they're calling the other person. They just have built in a bigger network of people. So on the field, yeah, I'm not going to train the teams in a sense together. There'll be times when we do technical work and that's fine. But like when we're talking about winning and losing, preparing for games, those are separated. But I've worked with hundreds of players in a singular, season. This is a lot more. It's specific and individualized as far as the two teams. But I enjoy coaching both. They balance each other. The men's behave one way, the women's behave another way. And it's like the yin and the yang in my life that I find it is a real big blessing and an opportunity. I've enjoyed coaching both. And throughout my career, I've sometimes bounced back and forth and sometimes been coaching both at the same time. So I was kind of like searching for that opportunity. And here was Talladega that had everything all rolled into one.
Awesome.
So that's what, like, to talk to a prospect. If I'll be honest, if they were like, "How's it going to be about me?" I would be like, "You're coming the wrong place," because it's going to be a big picture. It's not about the individual. There's a reason why my known as is Rudy.
All right. So, how will Talladega look different under you? Obviously, that's a very big question, but maybe if you can tell us maybe day one, right? One or two things, right?
I think the biggest thing is I've talked to kids because they're like, kids asked me before I got the job, what school are you going to? And I was like, let's have a phone call. Like, because I didn't want them to go to the website and see the women's team hadn't scored a single goal before we had a conversation. Because instead it was more like, let me tell you about, like, it's easy. I had a coach tell me we're going to be better, we're going to become successful, and for 24 years they didn't have a winning season. They didn't become successful when I was there or after I was there. There was no plan. There was nothing. And Bluefield College 10 years ago, team was the third most improved team in the country. We had a plan, and there were players that were already on that team from years before. Because in 13 years prior to that, they had won one conference game. Like, and then we made the conference quarterfinals, and we played in what I would say definitely was the hardest conference in the country that year. National champ Lindsey Wilson, Cumberland went to the Sweet 16, Georgetown and one other team went to the Christian College National Tournament. We weren't supposed to do anything. We had 6 weeks, brought in about like 8 or 10 girls to add to the, 10. I think we brought in 8, and there were already 10 players there. But there was a plan, and then we trained and changing the environment around the players, and the meetings and the team bonding. There's just like, there's so many things. The schedule is going to look different. The size of the squad is going to look different. Our approach to games, our approach to, I think, from the community, the players here are loved already. They're great citizens. They're good students. I'm not coming into a dumpster fire that I've called some other places in the past where it was like 1-point GPA and the kids were getting in trouble. I don't have that at Talladega, but from a competitive and a squad size, that's going to be the biggest change in the organization, I think, where we're going to play. I mean, this is why I made some people upset. They were thinking they were going to play Talladega for an easy win, D3 school, USCAA, NCCA. And I said, I'm sorry, you're not an NAIA team. I said, I'll do us a disservice. I said, I'm not saying this is happening this year or in 2 years, but at some time, we're going to be in a position to where we have a chance to be nationally ranked. And if we're playing teams that are not affiliated with our national association, we won't. And I'll have done a disservice to the school and the players and the program. So I'm like, I'm setting it straight up right from the get-go. So that's a big change, because I would say probably 80% of the non-conference games at least in the last season were against non-affiliated teams. So that's a big change in who we're playing, where we're playing, and kind of our direction of the program. It's about excellence instead of, I think, maybe it feels like there was a bit of an overarching fun, which is, it's fun to win. It's fun to compete. It's fun to grow as a human being. It's not fun to go out there and give up 80 goals or what have you in a season, or it's not fun to play with 9 players. Like, those things aren't fun. Sure, it's fun to travel places and go to different places, but I've learned a long time ago that it's fun when you overcome the odds and the adversity. I find it more enjoyable what's going to happen over the next 4 or 5 months, because people are like, don't get burned out. Don't worry, I'm going to work like a madman for about 4 months, and I'm gonna have about a few weeks off, and then we'll go into preseason, and I'll be good.
All right, so NAIA, right? Your last most recent stops, right? You were D1 up at Oakland in the Horizon. Then you were Division One NJCAA JUCO at Blinn, and now you're here at the NAIA. For some, yeah, and you're gonna find this, right? You're gonna find yourself explaining a lot of, hey, what the heck is the NAIA? I know NCAA, right? And then I know there's these divisions. I kind of know a little bit of the JUCO world, but what is the NAIA, right? So how do you go about that? And also, what has you excited about being and competing at this level now at the NAIA?
Well, actually, the conference commissioner called me today, which I didn't know in the past, and I get this call, and I answer it, and it's like, conference commissioner. I'm like, I haven't been here a hot second. Like, what is, like, usually you're in trouble when somebody like that calls, and I'm like, I haven't done anything. And then he's like congratulating me and everything, and I told him, and I'll say like, I got my start in the NAI. The NAI was a lot different, a long time ago,
Right.
back in the day, and I loved what the NAI was then. There was opportunities for older players to come over, get their degree that might be 26 or 28-year-old freshmen, but that's not the case anymore. The NAI is a home for a lot of private schools, might be religiously affiliated in a lot of cases. You don't find a lot of state schools in the NAI, and they have the values that they share across the board, and they value citizenship and those kind of things, and they reward academics from how they judge scholarships and different things. I find the NAI to be a very wonderful place. I've worn so many hats, soon I won't have to shave. But I enjoy that. And it's like I came here day one. We're getting ready to host the national basketball tournament opening round, and the Tornado Network director, Trevianian, I'm going to butcher his name, so I apologize. He's like on the phone. I've just met this kid, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to get somebody to do play by play." And I was like, he's like, "You have experience?" And I was like, "Yep." And so it's like I'm ready to jump in and be involved. And that's one of the things that I love about the NAI is there's opportunities. He's a student and he's running a network. And from everything I've watched, it's been really good. He also works in the WAC, Western Athletic Conference, in broadcasting. But those are the kind of things sometimes smaller schools and people go, "Oh my gosh," like, because we kind of experience this, right? Like there's these administrators and they're real busy, and it's just this my first day, and they're in all these meetings for the national tournament, and like we were going to do this yesterday, and it's like didn't quite work out that way.
Yeah,
And
of course. Yeah.
I'm flexible, and I just kind of understood that and embraced it. And it's like the assistant AD wears about 4 or 5 hats, and it's understanding that people are doing it for the love. Like I've never done it for the money. I've always, and
Absolutely.
I told him, I said, I need to be really engaged or I get bored. If there's stuff not happening, if it's just so easy and so like all I do is coach, that's one of the reasons, like when I was in Lithuania, it was like, that was actually boring because it was only like 4 hours out of the day. And I'm like, I'm used to doing all this stuff leading up to training and things afterwards. It's
Yeah.
like, go to training, coach these 3 teams, see you later. And that was it on a daily basis. And I was like, this is not what it's all cracked up to be for me in the
Yeah.
professional game.
Yeah.
But the NAI, it's different, and this is on the men's side. I've held on to this for a long time. I've worked in every division, coached in everything but Division II. But I've worked at a school that was NCAA Division II. And on the men's side, I believe the quality is so good that you could take the best programs that are consistent, and I won't name any schools, but you can take those like 5 to 10 schools every year. If you play them against each other, which they're not going to do, but if they would in a Champions League kind of format, there'd be a lot of 500 records. There's a difference between the depth and maybe a Division III school and a little bit more in the NAI, and then maybe a similar in Division II, and then Division I, everybody wants to be there. And I've been there, but not every Division I school is as great as the next. And there's levels in every division. So, but the elites on men's side is very elite. They're very similar. 2010, Luke Holmes was the NAI National Player of the Year at Notre Dame College, and national runners up. Because of transferring to Division II, no postseason the next year, he transfers and plays alongside Darren Maddox at the University of Akron. 2010, Akron was the national champs.
Mm-hmm.
He had to miss a few games, and he still was first team all conference and playing alongside the number 2 draft pick in the MLS. Starts. Like,
yeah.
Like that's the equality between the NAI and the elite levels and the elite Division I. And it's the same with Division II and Division III. I mean, I'm just going to say it. Jay Martin is a mentor of mine, and 42 national tournament berths in 44 seasons. And there's a lot of players who can't play at Ohio Wesleyan. It doesn't matter what they think they are. That's like, I've had kids say, "Oh, when I was a junior college, I'm better than D3. Well, you can't play at this school or Ohio Wesleyan, so don't tell me you're not D3. It's now the women's side, it's a little bit more geared towards D1's way more athletic. It's just it's a bit of a different game there. You get those players that are really, really special. Chloe Barthouse, I had a chance to coach when I was up in Michigan in the UWS, and as a freshman, she's at a different level, in the spring at Murray State. First team all conference, led the conference in goals and points and game tying goals and game winning goals. And she only started 2 games. Like, scary, and Bethany, but this is the deal. Like, Bethany Balser's a little bit of an anomaly in the NAI.
Right.
But if anybody follows women's soccer, Bethany Balcer was,
Right.
silver ball winner in the NWSL this year.
Yeah.
2 years ago, she
Yeah.
was rookie of the year. Signed a long-term contract with OL Reign. I saw her when she was a freshman down at Orange Beach here in Alabama, national tournament. I was broadcasting. Never heard of Spring Arbor at the time. They had the worst, by the way. If Chris, if you're watching, I hope he is. Please get rid of those baby blue and white striped hoop uniforms with white numbers. They were the worst as a broadcaster. But I got to figure out how they moved. Skierbeek on the wing, and Bethany was pretty obvious, and there were other girls that I don't remember their names, but like Bethany, I looked at her and I was like, she's different. She was a freshman. I think she scored
Right.
100 and some goal, 120 some goals in her college career, and only 3-time NAIA National Player of the Year between men's or women's. And so like she's kind of an anomaly, but there are those players
Absolutely.
that are in the NAIA. But like
Absolutely.
she was a mid-major, maybe low power 5, if you want to go that way on the women's side. She chose to go to Spring Arbor. It was the right fit for her.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
like, I think when you're talking about associations and divisions, a lot of people get hung up on that.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. Yeah.
And it's like, I think, people ask about Talladega and certain things, and I tell them like, no school is right for everybody. If there was a perfect school for everybody, it would be for nobody. Because, tell
Right.
kids all the time, there are schools in the mountains, there are schools in the desert, there are schools by the beach, there are schools in big cities and tiny towns. You can go from
Mhm.
millions of people down to 1,000 people, and there are colleges in them in this huge country, and there's a place for everybody. So if you get stuck on the association or division, you can miss out on like really good opportunity. And that's one of the things, because there are different coaches in every association that are good, bad, and different. There are
Absolutely.
programs that are super funded, and there are programs that aren't.
Right.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of the beautiful thing about
Yeah.
sports. But soccer's different, than American football. I couldn't say that about football or basketball, to say, oh, like our basketball team's really good. And I haven't looked at the schedules or anything like that to see who they played. But I'm guessing if they went up against West Virginia or Stanford or Kentucky, those teams are probably winning because of the athletic ability and those kind of things. It's been a while since Dennis Rodman. Trying to think who else played NAI.
Yeah.
But there's been some, but it's been a while ago since
Yeah.
you've had
Yeah.
those kind of
And I
players come
think
out of the NAI.
And I think you hit the nail on the head too with Bethany Belser, as far as she chose, right? She made that decision. So yeah, good on her. Kudos to her. So got a comment here from Coach Obed Hernandez. Coach, how are you? Congrats, Coach Rudy. Excited to see you continue your growth. El Paso has some great players for you. So, and that's a kind of perfect little segue for my next question. We talked about how, in terms of El Paso, and that area, that region, right? It's where we met, and you and I had kind of known of each other for a good bit. That's where we met, and really had the opportunity to engage there locally. I know you gave the region a lot of love, but from your perspective and what you see there, what's your take on that area, for not just for really the players? This is your opportunity to not only reach out to student athletes, parents that'll be listening from that region, that area, but also other coaches that need to also try to kind of wake up and realize what's there.
And I will say it's definitely about El Paso, but it was also about the Rio Grande Valley, 2 places that
Mhm.
I went when I was at Blinn. I've been to El Paso a couple of times, and there are players there. And it's a bigger arching thing. They've been little hotbeds for me. Um, and I'm willing to share them because there's so many players there that need to be seen, need
Absolutely.
to be discovered, and talking to some of the kids, and it's like I'm befuddled. Some of these really talented players, that they're like, Blinn is their number one choice, and I was leaving, letting them know I'm leaving. This is the head coach, and it's like finding out nobody else has talked to them. Kids in the Locomotive Academy, Internacional, those kind of things. So it's not so much on it's the club, whatever, but it's also the fact that I went over to both places for tournaments during the season. And if I didn't know you and I didn't know the Montwood coach, it would have been impossible to know schedules. When I went down to the Rio Grande Valley, if we hadn't had a connection to one of the coaches,
I know high school coaches there locally that would say the same thing. Yeah, yeah. And they're coaches. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like being able to promote that. I mean, it was, I wish I could remember, but the El Paso Times sports guy, I tweeted
Felix,
it.
Felix Chavez, great guy.
Yes, yes,
Great guy.
absolutely.
Great
He's
guy.
done a really
Great
good
guy.
job. So, Blinn, we tweeted out when I was there that, we were coming and tweeted at him and he retweets it. And it was great because
Yeah.
like I'm in the stands, got my thing and
Yeah.
kids are looking over their shoulder. And I'm thinking like, I don't want to recruit this kid because they were looking at their parent and whatever. Come to find out, they were like, there's the scout. And coaches were like, oh yeah, and then parents, and it was because of his retweet to like 20,000 people. People were looking for the logo. They didn't know what I looked like. But they were, so that was like all of a sudden we had this special attention. We went over to the Rio Grande Valley and we got connected with a journalist over there who actually interviewed us and interviewed the high school coach. And it's not to shame anybody, but she didn't know the event was going on. I was looking for the same thing that Felix had given us in El Paso, just promote us that we're coming. And she's like, will you do an interview? Sure. Got Blinn out there, got the tournament out there, and that tournament's been going on for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And in both cases, you had state champions from the past that are in these. And it's like, it's in a time when you like, if the Rio Grande Valley hadn't had some cold weather, like 40 degrees, because they're Southerners and snowbirds down there that when it gets cold, they close schools. But we should have seen about 16 schools, and we didn't see that many because, but those are the opportunities where, if a coach can go in and see 16 different schools in a few days, you're winning because the reason why a lot of college coaches don't go to high school games, you got freshmen, you got sophomore, you got juniors, you got seniors, you might have an eighth grader in there, depending on the state and the school and whatnot. And you're like, oh, I like this kid. Oh, wait, I got to wait 3 years on him. I want to look for the seniors or I want to look at juniors. But if you go to a game, a lot of like I've done it. I've had really good success in spending time with high school games, but there's a lot of people who are like, they don't want to invest that kind of time. So if you provide that platform, publicize the schedules, I made the mistake. I'm not an El Paso native. And I was told this stadium, I heard it, I plugged in the school, I go there. And I missed like the first half of a game because I'm trying like, where's this? And they're like, we don't have a game here. We got a JV game at 7:00 tonight. I'm like, no, and they're like, oh, it's over at this other facility. And it took me a while to figure out through Google, but it's like, if those things were available, you'd have a lot more potential to get coaches to come in for a weekend to see games and get exposure for kids. And, like, it's kind of like the nice thing for the kid when they got a lot of options or more options, there's just a better way for them to find the right school instead of like, oh, this is my number one because there's only 2 schools. And neither of them might be the right fit, but they're like what I found with El Paso kids, like they're looking, not everybody wants to leave Texas. Not everybody wants to leave El Paso, just like not everybody wants to leave Georgia or Alabama, but having the ability to find those kids, because there are some really special kids that they cross over every day from Juarez and they're carrying a 4.0 and they're leaving home at 4 a.m. Like all the coaches out there, like those are the kind of kids I want in my program. Like they're sacrificing, they're dedicated. I stumbled over a kid who, he's only going to be able to play his senior year at I can't remember, so I won't butcher and give somebody credit they don't deserve. But I saw this kid, looking back at my notes, and it's like they practice at like 6 or 7 in the morning. The coach is like, yeah, he has to leave his house at this ungodly time, and he's still carrying like a 3.5. Like those are the kind of kids that I look at, and it's like they're really after it, and those are the special things about El Paso that I find is really unique. And you got so many schools in that city, and you can kind of like throw a rock and from one school to the next sometimes. And I discovered that when I came down when we first met, and I was an admissions counselor, and I booked all these schools, and it was like boo, 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 boo. I could hit up 5 in a day. Like You go to another city and it's like, oh, I got to drive 40 minutes to go to the next school. In El Paso, it's like 5 minutes down the road, because you got Del
Yeah.
Valle and Isleta and that dish, that ISD, and go over here and you got all these schools and you can just, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty handy thing from that perspective.
Yeah. So as we start transitioning here, Coach, I know we're going to have you, excuse me, we're going to have you for our next segment, our counterattack segment. But before we do that, I got one final question for you here. So see if you can finish this sentence for me. So the 2022 Talladega soccer seasons will be a success if
We transcend the program. You want me to go on?
I don't know if you got more behind that or not. That's like
It's a loaded.
what is going to be? What's the definition? What's the definition that Coach Ruediger gives his team as transcending? What's the definition there?
Transcending is making things different and turning around and heading in a direction that is unlike ever before. On the men's side, sure, we could go skyrocketing up and plummet down, but to transcend the men's program is to provide a quality base that's going to be here for years. On the women's side, well, both of them need to immediately become a much stronger team in a competitive on the field atmosphere. But to transcend it, we've got to be, and like kids ask me what the goals are. I said, it's to give up fewer goals, to score more goals, to win more games, to lose fewer games, to have a higher GPA, to do more community service. Everything is going to be better than it was before. That's the only way you can transcend. You can't, I don't believe in slow burns. I believe in right away. Coach Mack always called me something. I forget what his little name for me was, but I believe it's got to be like, if you start off slow, I think you never really make the change because you're making excuses all along the way of, oh, that'll be better. That'll be better tomorrow. And I believe in excellence is like, there's only one standard, and that to be able to be transcendent, like you've got to set the standard so high that people are having to clamor to reach it. And hopefully everybody that's here wants that. But the people I bring in, they have to want that. They have to be in line with that. So that's what transcending is everything's got to be better.
All right. I like that. It's good. Good. All right. So I know you're going to stick around with us. We get to pick on you a little bit, ask you some questions for our counterattack segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
College Promoters USA, founded and located in San Antonio, operates as the only family-owned college recruiting company in Texas that brings a truly professional, local, and face-to-face approach to area high school student athletes and their families. If your son or daughter is serious about college athletics, call them at 210-494-6363 or visit collegepromotersusa.com anytime. College Promoters USA, the best investment a parent can make in their high school student athletes.
All right, and we're back with Coach Rudy Roediger, the head men's and women's soccer coach of Talladega College. He was nice enough to join us on day 2 on the job. So, all right, Coach, welcome back. We get to have some fun with you now. You ready?
I am.
All right, awesome. So, handful of questions. This is our counterattack segment. I kind of ask away. We try to, keep it relatively brief. I would say rapid fire in theory, but it just kind of depends, right? So, all right. So all of these apply as a coach, not as a player. Okay. So any game day superstitions or rituals?
Drink a lot of coffee, and but that's a daily routine. So that's nothing.
I don't know. That's just a life ritual, Coach.
That is absolute. The fact that I'm only drinking some ginger tea here instead of coffee at this time of night is a little concerning. But I would say some of my rituals have to do with packing my bag and making sure everything's there, because it's kind of like when I travel abroad or whatever. I always feel like I'm forgetting something.
Yeah.
And so it's like being very routine. I don't have a superstition. Even though Jay Reese, who was the basketball coach at Alexander High School when I was there, he made me wear the same stuff throughout the whole high school basketball tournament, and I wasn't even a player. It was kind of the deal. He wouldn't let me change the tie or my socks or anything, and I mean, it's like comfort. It's like comfort food, I guess, for
There you
people
go.
to say.
All right.
But but it's like I probably do have a little bit of like a superstition that I probably have to break my glasses at least once a year, my sunglasses. It
Oh
happened
yeah.
on day one. It happened on day one at Talladega, so it's going to be good.
There you go. All right. So yeah, are you? I don't know if you're like me, and maybe it's just military. Maybe it's just the military lifestyle. But I have a full head to toe check every time whenever I'm packing. So never, I forgot something one time in my entire military career, and I adopted that, and it's never it. Knock on wood, hasn't failed me since. So thank God. Thank
I'm
God.
gonna have to maybe adapt that. I mean,
Yeah.
my head to toe is like, did I shave today?
Yeah, no, exactly that, or the time of year. It's got a hat, bucket hat, beanie. Just depends. You got to have something, right? You got to have
That
something to
this
protect your
is
chrome dome.
actually when I have the ability, I like to shave very close towards the game because they get
There you
real
go.
annoying when I've got some fuzz there like I do now or sandpaper. I don't. I'm just
Yeah,
all about the Mr. Clean now.
there you
So
go. There you
that's one
go.
of my things because I like to. I used to run my hair in through my hair back in the day, and
Yeah, well, you
uh,
got a great barber, in my opinion. So I'll just leave it at that. So, all right, favorite number and why?
my favorite number as a player was 6. And that was because when I was a freshman in high school, I walked down the row and it was like number 41, number whatever, all these horrendously huge numbers. And then there was 6 over here. And I couldn't believe all the upperclassmen left 6. So I went and walking up and Coach Jerry, the head coach at the time, legendary Alexander High School coach, he's like, "Oh, nobody good's ever wore 6 since whoever." And I was like, "Well, that's going to change." Not that I was good, but my junior year, I took 12 dives. Like I'll be honest, I took 12 dives. Were given 12 penalty kicks. Chris DiAgostino, State Player of the Year that year, first team All State, was just putting them in the back of the net for us. But I claim to fame was I was the upside down 9. So
There you
I'd
go.
be on the ground and somebody else would get the goal. But I like 6 because of its meaning with N'Golo Kante and the defensive mid and the kind of like that wasn't me necessarily, but that person who is a defender who does a lot for the team. I
Yeah,
think mentally I was that person in an attacking position a lot of times, but that very selfless player is the number
yeah,
6.
yeah, yeah. I love me some N'Golo Kante. He's fun to watch. He really easy to be underappreciated too until you really start watching him, right? More and more and more. You get a great appreciation for him. So
Yep.
uh so here a little comment here from John Burke congratulating you. So all right, another little comment. Great conversation. Thank you, John. Appreciate you. Um,
Well, up there in the great state of Michigan is John.
there he is. Yeah, yeah. So all right, are you a emoji guy, GIF? I don't even know what to call it anymore. GIF, emoji, GIF, or both? Which one are you?
I lean way more towards the emoji because they're right on my keypad. I don't have to go searching for the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say, as much as you and I talk, your emoji game is kind of weak. I gotta admit. But
yeah, well,
but
but my pontification game might be decent. I don't know. But yeah, my emoji game is pretty
yeah.
weak, but that's all right.
Or your GIF game, I should say, not your emoji game,
Oh
your
yeah,
GIF. Yeah, your GIF
definitely.
game. Sorry, your GIF.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think your
my older brother.
emoji, based off our conversations, your emoji go to must be the guy with his head in his hand, probably. Because somehow I see that one all the time. So all right,
Or praying hands.
there you go. Yeah. So all right, next one. Something it's kind of a deep one here. Something you wish you would have been told prior to entering coaching.
Hmm. That's a good deep question because I don't think anybody could have given me any advice before I got in that would have sunk in, that would have changed my path because it wasn't until I was in it that you actually. It's kind of like kids going through the process. I talked to a
Right.
girl last night. She had never talked to a college coach before. I'm like, "You have any questions?" She's like, "No," and she was so nervous and she didn't know what she was ready for. And I'm like, "Don't worry, I'm not scary." Um, but for me, it was like I remember when I got into coaching and I got some good mentors and I had a reference point. Because looking on the outside, like you think it's one thing, that it's not, because like I tell the players all the time, 98% of what I do is not coaching. I get that little bit of time on the field. It's all the other things in the office, the recruiting, the scouting, the video work, maybe GPS, whatever, the weight room. And so, I think the advice that I probably didn't need, but would have helped me is it's going to be a lot more work than you think. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
the trying times are so rewarding in the end of the day. When you think it's tough and you're really upset about something, then, years down the road, a kid calls you and says, I need to talk to my other dad. Those are the things, like when you're in the midst of things and going through with kids, like that you don't know, but then down the road, that person's coming back to you. And this happened to me like not too
Yeah.
long ago.
Yeah.
And like, those are the things. And, I've had in the midst of like moving, and I felt bad because I was like, man, I need to spend some more time with kids that like they need me right now, but they're long removed from me, but we're still very close and connected, and they're going through life, and they're leaning on that experience and in the age that because I'm like, I don't feel old, and we kind of joked about my age, and but you do have a life experience, and that's what like coaching is, giving back the life experience that you have to other people. And I think that's maybe the advice that I didn't really get from a vocal, but I saw it with my high school coaches and my club coaches. Like
Right.
they were reflective of that. So I picked up on that. I was like, I wanted to have that person in my life when I got to college.
Gotcha.
So that's one of the reasons I got into coaching, was like, I want to be able to be that person
Yeah.
that I had.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, next one. Hidden talent. We know it's not your gift game. So, hidden talent.
It's definitely not singing. Um, and I don't know, like I've got it's not really a hidden talent. Some people define me a little bit more from like a graphic design and a marketing side of things. But so it's not really hidden, but that's one of the pieces to something I've done behind the scenes. And neither is networking. A hidden talent. I'm pretty shallow. I mean, I can cook. Um, I've when I started when I was about 12 years old, I started a bread baking business, and
What? Say
making
that again?
bread baking.
Bread baking. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I made bread by hand when I was about 12 years old, and had a clientele at the church. And then once a month did sweet rolls. And so like I'm a critic of bread, now when I go places, because it's that's
Uh,
one of those strange things. And then my grandfather had a U-pick strawberry farm. So I'm pretty snobbish when it comes to strawberries, because I actually worked on a strawberry farm and
nice.
U-pick, and had it. And so like those are some things that people don't usually know about, I guess.
Right.
And somewhere in, well, you can't see it behind me, but there's a shelf that I made when I was in high school. I was in wood shop. So
There you go.
those are some hidden talents, I guess.
All right. Awesome. So, next one. Favorite movie quote that you can share. That you can share.
Oh my gosh. What, you really caught me on that one. I'm terrible. I used to own about 1,000 DVDs. And now I don't really watch movies that much anymore. And I'm terrible on quotes. I'm trying to think of one. Something about, all right, God, it's time to come and like show up and show off. I forget the exact quote. Um, but it's a sports movie, and it's based in the South, and the girls like, so that was one of my favorite ones, is because it's kind of like, all right, this God, come on, show up and show off like what you're all about. Or I could just be real boring and say, Rudy, Rudy. Still gets me chill bumps. Not from soccer. I was terrible at basketball, folks. So that's when I got cheered for like
All right. I tried to set it up there for you. I didn't know if you were going to go that route or not, but all right. Little comment here from Emma Hanning, congratulating you. I guess saying you're a grill master. I don't know. That's
that.
that
That that
remains
is
that remains to be seen. We'll see.
that is facts. That is facts, as the
All
kids say.
right. All right. Next one. All right. You are appointed the soccer czar in America today, right? So tomorrow, what's the first thing you change soccer in America tomorrow? Agenda item number one. What's the first thing you change?
I would make the collegiate soccer both semesters, and match it up with basketball. That would be one of my biggest things that I think would be the like a game changer from a sports science and a health and safety of the players. And
Hmm.
like you look at the spring right now, it's only about development. You get limited exhibitions,
Right. Right.
and in the fall, it's all about win, 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 win. And there's not a real balance in the soccer. Like baseball gets a special long fall season, and basketball gets to start. Soccer's been like this very unique thing. It's like we're the first ones in, and condensed season. Boom! If
I
you're win
know.
the national championship, like December 10th, you're done, and then you're off until February, and then you got this weird training, and then it's
Right.
like so. It's like that would be one of the biggest things that I think it would really change the collegiate game. And not that the college game should be the pathway to the professional, but it still should be an option. And if it doesn't align, it's a lot harder for those players to make that step. I mean, we've got it in the basketball and everything, but the soccer world is different than those other sports. But you're still going to have a Jamie Vardy in the U.S. at some point.
Right. 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 Okay. So, all right, and you can't say Sean Astin from the movie Rudy in this one. So, who would play you in a movie?
Hmm, who would play me in a movie? Oh gosh, I'm really bad at who actors are. Um, so that I'm probably gonna fail at. Um,
Nobody? Not even no Clint Eastwood? No something? No, I don't know. I ain't saying you're that old. I'm just saying
no,
something.
I'm
You
trying to
know?
think of the guy. There is an actor. It was an action figure. Um, man,
I
he's got
stumped
a
you on. Oh,
similar.
we'll come back to that one. How about that?
Yeah, yeah,
You want to come back to that one?
yeah. I'm gonna have to do some Google because
There you
I'm
go.
picturing, but I'm terrible with names.
All right. So, all right. In 3 words, how would your players describe you?
Crazy,
3 words.
passionate, and caring.
Okay. Good. Good. All right. So, most recent book you read or are currently reading?
The current book that I'm reading is where are we at? Um, where did I put it? Called the Coach by Bobby Bowden.
Hmm. Okay. Gotcha. All right. How is that?
It's a really fantastic behind the scenes of how he started off in some really challenging situations and how his faith was important to him. And well, he's lucky he had a wonderful wife that was also very supportive.
Right.
But the
Right.
things um, the tough decisions that people don't know about and how he actually turned around Florida State when it was nothing. It's
Mhm.
pretty fascinating because he came out and he was very bold and people thought he was crazy because they couldn't do anything. And as a program, they had been nothing, and Florida had just been rolling Florida State, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
it took him a couple of years, and then it's like, oh, wait a second, who's this? And he had believed in it all the time. He really went about building the program with intention,
Yeah.
and finding people, and that's one of the things that Tony Dungy and Joe Paterno, did the forwards, but Tony Dungy's somebody that's I really respect as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So stay with me. We got 2 more, 2 left. Well, 3 technically. We got to go back to that other one. So,
Yeah.
all right, 3 songs in your playlist right now.
Oh man, 3 songs in my playlist.
Or one of
Um,
your playlists.
yeah, I was gonna say, I've been listening. I'll just maybe more on artists. So this is gonna be real broad.
All right.
Grits, it's an artist,
Okay.
band, and then Creedence Clearwater Revival and
There you
Metallica.
go. Some good old CCR, huh?
Yes, I am gonna find this
And what's the other one?
action figure. Oh,
Oh, was that 3? Did you say 3 or 2?
yeah, Grits.
Uh-huh.
Grits is a Christian rap band,
Yeah.
CCR, and then Metallica.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is pretty broad. There you go. All right. All right. So here's a deep question here for you. Or do you want to go back to that? Who would
Yes,
play you in a movie? Who was that?
Jason Statham.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good actor. Good actor.
Yes.
All right. So, all right. Final one. Great haircut too. So, all right. Lesson learned that resonates with you from the pandemic, with you
Hmm.
personally.
Lesson learned from the pandemic. I think it kind of resonates that you can let anything bother you. and being able to be adaptable and solve like a situation when like things change in the world all the time, and it was a big change. I remember I was traveling 1,500, 2,000 miles a week, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm sat in my apartment for months on end,
Yeah.
and it was a big change for me. Like I didn't see people for like a month on a time for a while. 'Cause it
Mhm.
was just locked down, shut in, go get groceries. That's the only time you saw people, and you buy enough for a month. And well, I'm very interactive with people.
Right. Right.
And so it's like, how do you solve that? Well, this kind of option became a thing. And I was, like, I actually wrote it down because um, yesterday I had 692 phone notifications. And today it's over 500 before we got on this. Who knows now? Um, but I'm pretty interactive with people, and so it was a lot more phone calls to my family and friends and actually former players and getting in touch with them. But it's like the life lesson I think is like, how do you solve this thing that you didn't know was ever going to be there? And also, you know, education, getting learning about things and not getting stuck into believing first thing you hear sometimes. I left Berlin, and like the last study hall I had with the guys, they're trying to convince me this child was 26-year-old MMA like superstar. Oh, coach, you've never heard of this person? And I'm like, that kid's like 4 years old. No, 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 all this stuff. And I was like, I might have been born in the morning, and it was almost leap day. So I could be a lot younger than I am, but it wasn't this morning. Like, don't believe everything you hear that you see on TikTok or whatever, um, which comes with age. But those are some of the life lessons that came through, that you already knew, but then it's like, how do you reinvent yourself? I think is, in those real different times, how do you reinvent yourself to become effective and still be the person you are with the new limitations and safeguarding that was taking place. Like I was supposed to go on about 3 out of country trips that summer,
Mhm.
and the flight to Birmingham from Houston was the first time I'd been on a flight since like 2019.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was it was the craziest thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's that's it, man. We've been through all of them, so we did it. So absolutely loved having you here. Yeah, you're see, I
I
told you.
made it.
Told you you'd be fine. I know you were sweating it a little bit, but
Yeah.
coach, this has been awesome. Have absolutely loved having you on here. And before we go, just kind of wanted to see any final thoughts, anything you wanted to share, shout outs, anything before we wrap up here.
Lots of I could give lots of shout outs, and I got to be careful, but I want to thank the administration at Talladega for believing in me. Because this is, while I've been a head coach multiple different places, this is the first 4-year head coaching job. And like I told them, I was looking for a destination job, and for them to believe in like my vision of the program to align with theirs is a big statement. And Kevin and Dumont, the athletic director and assistant athletic director, and the president, here at Talladega, and then Mac McBride down at Blinn, and the head coach there, and Scott Schumacher, the AD, massively supportive in everything that happened. And got to say hello to Ray Wells out there, Lindsey Wilson. He's finishing up his career in the NAIA. He's going to be big time miss. Um, Tim Linehan at Northwestern really shaped me in some other creative ways, and he's retired from Northwestern. We lost some big time great coaches recently that have you know gone on to a new part of their life. Um,
Right.
but Jay Martin at Ohio Wesleyan still going, and I hope he keeps going, because that way I can keep saying he's been in the national tournament more years than I've been alive, um, which is just mind boggling. But say hello to my family, my parents back in Ohio, and my siblings kind of all over the country, and all the former players out there. It would take me a long time, but specifically Dari Maomi and Troy Caesar, um, two guys that I've been really close to, and probably won't see James Quinn on this. He's over in England right now, but some of the memorabilia behind them is and Ryan Davies' shoes over my shoulder there. Some guys that have been really special, and but all the players I could list those because they've been really special. I probably shouldn't have named any specific ones there. I'll get in trouble. But all the friends out there, and Matt up in Michigan that we spoke the other night, and what we talked about, if he's seeing this, like that was really special to me. You don't hear every day that like this isn't, I don't know how to say this, but coaches that are coaching out there, like until somebody tells you, you don't know that you're like inspiring somebody. And I was pretty blown away last night that like I've taken a non-traditional path, and you learn about other people that are also kind of going through that. So I want to like encourage people who didn't have the normal way to a college degree, taking a different path. Like it's not easy. Trust me. It took me 21 years to finish my bachelor's degree, but it's made me passionate about giving kids the direct path and the mentorship. But the people who are going through that and really want to do the same, I say stay strong, and people want to reach out. I'm found on social media, and if I'm not on the Talladega website yet, I will be shortly. But social media, I can be found easy at Rude Sports. And if you're a nice person, I'll approve you on Instagram to be my friend. Twitter's wide open, but those are the kind of things that I would say to people, like, keep working. If you're in the game and you're coaching, my hat's off to you, because it is a not even a labor of love. It's a job of love. I was talking to Sean Soderling tonight because we're going to play them in the fall. They're coming down here, and I said, like, I don't think this job's hard. I don't. It's a lot of hours, but I personally don't find the job hard, and I think some people make it hard but it shouldn't be. It should be absolutely a joy to get up every day and talk to the players and see them accomplish great things. See them be better than I ever was, and accomplish greater things, and know about the scholarships and all these other things. Like it's exciting to me. So everybody out there doing that, I just say keep on it, and I look forward to hearing from people, and I'm excited to see what Talladega, and for those people who said good luck playing so and so this fall, I say bring it on.
All right, that's awesome, great stuff. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, you did hit on it there at the end, that I've often referred to it as, I tell people, just not even whatever interviews, just when I start talking about my love for the game, my passion for our, this is our craft. I call it our craft, and it's not, it's not a job, it's not a career, it's a calling, because for those very reasons that you talked about, the ability to influence, the ability to impact, and oftentimes we have to have faith in the process, in terms of knowing that you may never see the fruits of your labor, of what our scholar athletes go on to become, or what they turn into, until years down the road. So yeah, that's very well said. So my final thoughts really, last week of world events, it's been a tough week obviously for a lot of people. A lot of people have, beyond the pandemic and their own personal circumstances, I think have kind of received a major reset, in terms of events going on around the world, but also specifically events that have happened within the last 24 hours. And again, with what we opened up with. But, my big thing is for coaches out there, as well as, your student athletes. Make sure that you're checking in on each other, you're checking up with each other, making sure that you're staying connected, and finding ways to, get to know one another better, beyond just soccer, or beyond your commitment to the game, to your team. Because you just never know, right? You just never know what someone might be privately going through, right? So goes without saying, mental health, very important aspect. So again, coach, he is Coach Rudy Roediger, the head men's women's soccer coach of Talladega College. Thank you again, Coach. This has been long overdue, long in the making. Very happy to see you getting hired, and I have no doubt that Talladega, both programs, are going to be they're going to be transcendent very soon. So I appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you having on the podcast team. Appreciate you coming on. For our listeners, for our supporters, thank you again for everything. One update: you will start seeing us in the next couple of days. The podcast, all of the old episodes, all of the old audio episodes, going all the way back to December 15th of 2020 when we launched our very first episode. They are now actively being migrated, and so you'll start seeing us pop up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, within probably the next couple of days as well. So, and for those of you, if you're on, for those of you that are on Podbean, we're already on Podbean as well, as they are our podcast host site. So, for our listeners, again, thank you for everything. For our supporters, you're the reason why we do it. We're inching closer and closer to that time of the season, the Texas high school soccer UIL state playoffs. The district races are tightening up and they're winding down. So we'll continue to be coming live very soon with special episodes of Inside Texas High School Soccer. But until then, keep doing your thing. And you know what to do. Keep downloading and keep